All right, let's just jump right in. We've all read the stories, right? Ghosts, UFOs, bizarre creatures, things that just seem to break the laws of physics as we know them. But what if the problem isn't what we're seeing, but how we're seeing it? Today, we're diving into a pretty wild idea that connects one of history's greatest minds, Nikola Tesla, to some of the biggest mysteries out there. So here's the question that kicks this whole thing off. What if these strange phenomena aren't fake? What if they're not from another galaxy? What if they're right here, right now, just vibrating at a different frequency, invisible, untouchable, completely off the radar of our current technology? A hidden reality, basically, hiding in plain sight. If you're a sci-fi fan, think of it kind of like the phasing concept from Star Trek. On the left, you've got our reality, everything we can see and touch and measure. But then, on the right, you have this other phase. It's the exact same physical space, but all its matter and energy are just vibrating differently. It's essentially a ghost dimension that maybe, just maybe, can bleed through into ours every once in a while. Okay, so let's ground this wild sci-fi idea in a very real and very strange place, where these kinds of out-of-phase events might actually be happening. I'm talking about the infamous Skinwalker Ranch. The biggest challenge for investigators there has always been how fleeting everything is. Unidentified aerial phenomena, shadow figures, weird electromagnetic spikes. They appear out of thin air, and then poof, they vanish. They don't play by our rules because, well, what if they're not fully in our phase of reality to begin with? So how in the world could we even begin to interact with something like that? Well, the key might just come from the past, from a man who saw the entire universe as a giant symphony of vibrations, Nikola Tesla. In this quote, this really gets to the heart of his whole worldview. For Tesla, this wasn't some kind of philosophical mumbo-jumbo. No, this was a fundamental principle of physics. He believed that everything, from the tiniest atom to the biggest galaxy, was all defined by its unique frequency. The real secrets weren't in the stuff, but in the vibrations creating the stuff. So when you look at what he was obsessed with, it starts to make sense. He was fascinated by resonance, the idea that you could use a tiny vibration to amplify another one and create a massive effect. He saw our planet not as a dead rock, but as a huge electrical conductor. And then there was his most mysterious obsession, the numbers 3, 6, and 9, which he was convinced were some kind of key to the universe. Now that fixation on 3, 6, and 9, it probably came from something called vortex math. It sounds complicated, but the basic idea is pretty simple. It's a system where you can find the digital root of any number, and when you do, you start to see this hidden pattern. And in that pattern, the numbers 3, 6, and 9 seem to operate on a whole different level, completely separate from all the other numbers. Just look at this pattern here. You start with 1 and just keep doubling it. So 1 becomes 2, then 4, then 8, then 16. But with 16, you add the digits. 1 plus 6 is 7. You do that over and over, and you get this endless loop. 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, and then back to 1. So what's missing? Which numbers never show up? Yep, 3, 6, and 9. It's like they exist outside of this physical loop. And here is the absolute kicker. Tesla didn't see this as just some cute math trick. Oh no. He believed these numbers were a vector, a signpost, a pathway, a literal gateway to what he called a new dimension, an unseen plane of existence that was governed by a totally different set of rules. All right, so let's keep building on this. Now we're going to connect Tesla's century-old, kind of esoteric ideas directly to the strange things people are seeing today, and even to the cutting edge of modern physics. This is where it all starts to click together. I mean, think about it. Modern string theory says that different vibrations of tiny strings could create entirely different realities. Is that so different from ancient cultures who used specific chants and sound frequencies to try and access other realms? And now, fast forward to today. The team at Skinwalker Ranch is literally using Tesla coils to blast a specific frequency, 1.6 gigahertz, into the ground to try and provoke a reaction. It's the same core idea, echoing across centuries. So all of this leads to a really fascinating question. If Tesla's theories are even a little bit right, could we actually design a device to test them? Could we intentionally, ping this other dimension? Let's take a look at what that might look like. So the idea is called the Resonant Ether Probe, or REP for short. Here's the plan. First, you'd build an array of Tesla coils, maybe in a hexagonal shape to honor that whole 369 thing. Second, you pulse very specific frequencies, privileged frequencies, into the ground. Third, you'd have a whole network of different sensors, listening for any weird echoes that bounce back. And finally, you use AI to comb through all that data, trying to find a link between the frequency you sent out and whatever strange thing happened next. And this table really shows how every single part of this experiment is pulled straight from Tesla's playbook. His 3, 6, and 9 numerology, that inspires the hexagonal coil array. His whole concept of resonance, that's applied by pulsing those special frequencies. And his belief that the Earth is a giant conductor, well, you use that by grounding the coils directly into a hotspot for strange activity. Just like Skinwalker Ranch. So, what if it actually worked? What would be the implications of successfully painting a hidden reality? This is where things get both really, really exciting and, honestly, a little bit terrifying. If you go back and read Tesla's own notes and warnings, playing with resonance at this scale is not a game. You could accidentally create massive electromagnetic storms, frying every piece of electronics for miles. You might create unstable portals or bleed-throughs from that other phase that you can't close. Tesla even worried about causing localized earthquakes. I mean, these are not small risks, which really leaves us with this one final massive question. The technology and the theory might almost be within our reach. We might actually be able to build a machine that can knock on the door of another reality. But before we do, we really have to ask ourselves, should we? And more importantly, are we prepared for who or what might answer?